Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's talk about nostalgia. Everybody gets a little bit nostalgic, right? We all have portions of our childhood or the past, whichever part of your life it may be, that you look on as in a fond way, that you think that those were the good old days, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people in my generation, I'm Gen X, and people in my generation like to talk about old TV shows from the 80s or music from the 80s, a lot of stuff from the 80s because that's when we were teenagers. Riding our bikes in the streets until the street lights came on, that's when you had to go home. Watching Happy Days and going to see Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. People talk about punk shows and heavy metal concerts. And I mean, you can do that stuff now, but those were the good old days. My generation talks about this stuff relentlessly. In my parents' generation, they like to reminisce about the 60s. They talk about, various aspects of the music and the culture, the way they dressed, Woodstock, the Beatles, those types of things. You have a lot of classic car enthusiasts. That's purely driven by nostalgia. You ever watch Meekum Auto Auction or the Barrett-Jackson auction? I watch that shit all the time. And I love classic cars. I just went to a car show this weekend, and it's largely people older than me, partly because they have all the money for it and it's a very expensive hobby. But that's what makes me laugh, is because these old Camaros, you used to see Camaros ripping through my neighborhood, and Trans Ams and Mustangs. These cars were just piece of shit redneck cars, just a wannabe sports car. If you were a poor working class, because everybody in my neighborhood was poor or working class, that was what you would get. And it was usually passed down from your parents or whatever, or you'd get it cheap, and you'd fix it up and make it fast and take it in drag race. People used to go drag racing back in those days, street racing out in the streets. I guess they do that now too, but it wasn't all that fast and the furious bullshit. Nobody was pulling a Honda Civic out to the fucking drag strip, man. These were all muscle cars, big engines. And that whole scene now through Barrett-Jackson is driven just by nostalgia. People pay millions of dollars in some cases for these cars, just because it was something that they remember fondly. That's it. That's the only reason. That's what gives the value. There's lots of nostalgia out there. We can go on and on about the good old days forever. Drinking Capri Suns on the front porch of my friend's house. We could have these conversations forever. But there's a point to where you got to give it up. And what that point is, that when it starts to make you depressed. Now, not everybody gets this way. It's a syndrome. I believe it's called something like extreme nostalgia syndrome, something to that effect. But it's legit. It's a medical disorder. And these people that go down that road too far, they truly start living in the past. Not that they're recreating the past, but that's where their heart lies. They've given up on the future, and it turns them evil in a way, where they see only darkness. They think that this time that they're living in now is this horrible time to be alive. And are constantly talking about why it sucks. Why this time that we're alive, this era, why it is so awful. And they can just point at all the world's problems, point at all the news stories they saw last night on the news, and just go on and on and on about how it used to be this and now it's this way. It used to be this way and now it's this way. It sucks, sucks, sucks. That's a real dangerous road to go down. I know people that have committed suicide because they've become so lost in the past and given up so easily on the present. It's really just a depression, and it's all about looking back on a time when your life may have been a little bit better than it is right now. It's an extreme unhappiness with who they are right now and what the situation is with their lives right now. And then just cherry picking the past. When we look back on the past, and it's not saying anything about somebody's intelligence or their memory, but none of us remember the past accurately because we cherry pick. Just like when you're looking around, say, when you're walking down the block. You're not seeing everything. We don't have wide angle lens. Our eyes are looking forward. And we're looking at life like as if you're looking through a tube. We're only capturing a little bit. And then we cherry pick little experiences. Oh, I used to have a cool car, I had a good girlfriend. We cherry pick little experiences, ignoring other aspects of reality. So the point is the past may not be as rosy as you remember. There were problems in the past. People look back at the certain times when they were teenagers or young adults as being so great. I was wild and free, or this and that. Not remembering or wanting to remember how much extreme boredom that they were going through, how unhappy they actually were in real life, how dissatisfied they may have been with various aspects of where they lived or who they were, whatever. People give up on that stuff and only look at the good stuff because their life now might be kind of shitty. They may not be doing what they need to do right now in order to be happier, in order to be healthier. They've given up on themselves. It's a real problem. We need to be able to focus on the now, the here and now. We can play a game for a while of planning and plotting and scheming towards the future. It's good to have a plan. You never plan to fail, you only fail to plan. But you don't want to live so much in fantasy and a hypothetical, that'll just give you anxiety and panic attacks. These idiots who think they have to be ready for every scenario, you just need to be able to be confident in yourself that whatever happens, you can handle it. You'll go crazy, turn into a lunatic, trying to plan everything out. But it's good to be able to have some foresight, to have goals. Because you want to have a goal to be able to work towards it. You want to be able to always be going down that path, moving forward in life. But conversely, you don't want to sit there and focus, like I said, on the past too heavily. It's great to reminisce with your buddies or whatever every once in a while and think about the good old days. But you want to focus on what's going on now. And if you're not happy with what's going on now, you need to change it. If you think that it's all external problems, what would it take for you to be happy right now? What would it take to have your ideal life? Is that possible? Somebody's knee-jerk reaction who's going down this road of this extreme nostalgia syndrome might respond to that and say, no, it's not possible. Because right now sucks. We don't have the president we want. We don't have the country we want. They go down all these external factors that they can't really control. These are ones that I've heard recently, but there's plenty of others. There used to be a different culture of manhood. There used to be this, used to be that, and people just start adding them all up to where the past was this golden age. And right now sucks, and we're just lost. What would it take for you to live the ideal life now? There's always going to be problems. Would it take being able to handle bad times easier? Would that help you to be able to live this life right now in the present in a more happy way? If you could handle anything, if you had an X-Men power and it was and that power, your superpower was to be able to handle any issue, no matter what it was, no matter how great, doesn't matter if it's Armageddon or a stubbed toe, you can handle anything and handle it perfectly and handle it happily. Would that be what would allow you to exist in the present time and to be able to be happy and to be able to move forward with your goals? What would it be? Start asking yourself these questions. Be like Columbo. You remember that show? He's nostalgic. Remember the show Columbo? I forget who used to be the actor, but he played that character so well. I don't know if he ever even did any other characters. I don't know. He just played that one. But Columbo, when he starts asking you questions, man, that's over. You know you're busted. He's got you. And his questions would always be so great. Ask yourself these questions. What would it take? And really listen for those answers. Be honest with yourself. Doesn't matter if they're fantastic. But there's your goals. That's what you need to do in the present, in order to be happy. Because we live in the present. You're always going to live in the here and now. The past is gone. It's nothing but a fantasy. A twisted fantasy that we see with a filter. The future doesn't exist. it's also just a hypothetical idea, depending on which decisions you make. But it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now. And if you're lost in nostalgia, to where it's bringing you down, making you depressed, you need to start working. It's just a message. It's just your brain telling you need to start working on right now. You need to start working on yourself now. It could be your health. It could be physical or mental health. It could be your job. It could be your relationships. It could be where you live. It could be all kinds of factors. Work on that shit right now. I know a guy in 2019 who killed himself, and one of the problems, he had many problems, but one of his problems was this exact issue. This extreme nostalgia. It destroyed his present time. He refused to fight his weaknesses, to go after that struggle, to say, okay, I'm overweight, I have depression issues, I have relationship problems, I have money issues, instead of to attack those issues, those weaknesses, to go after that every day, he ended up hanging himself. Figured he'd take the easy way out. It's sad because he could have very easily taken baby steps every single day. Just baby steps, just little steps. Nobody's asking for him to be a superhero. He could have taken just little steps every day. And he would have found all of a sudden at the end of a week, he could look back and say, wow, I've actually come pretty far. I'm actually getting closer to some of these goals. After 2 weeks, a month, a year, he could have changed his whole life around. And everything that he bitched about, all those things that he wished he had in the past, he could have right now. Live in the here and now. Tell me what you guys think. Comment below. Tell me what you're nostalgic about. Have you ever known anybody who took it too far, lived in the past too much, and made them depressed? Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.